My name is Christopher Pike. I'm one of the photographers working at Expo 2020 Dubai. My photography style is very hands-off. I like to try to show the experience that the subject is going through and really convey the emotion that's happening in the scene or wherever I am photographing. Sometimes it can take hours and days and months and years, and sometimes it just happens in an instant. So it's just a matter of being prepared and allowing for the best outcome to surface. So preparation and a little bit of luck.
A picture is equivalent to 1,000 words. And for mega events worldwide, like the FIFA World Cup 2022 or the Dubai Expo 2020, only the best photographers can be called on to write a pictorial story. We speak today to such photojournalist Christopher Pike, who takes visual storytelling to a whole new level. Exciting stuff ahead, so keep watching. Hello, Christopher. It's so great to have you here on the show with us today. My first question is, how would you describe your photography style if you had to?
My photography style is very hands-off. I like to try to show the experience that the subject is going through and really convey the emotion that's happening in the scene or wherever I am photographing.
So how long on average does it take for you to get that perfect frame? I mean, does it take a lot of time, or is it something that just happens almost instantly? It just hit.
The perfect scene, well, there's no such thing as perfect, you know. Sometimes it can take hours and days and months and years, and sometimes it just happens in an instant. So it's just a matter of being prepared and allowing for the best outcome to surface. So preparation and a little bit of luck.
Yeah, that's actually so important, right? Luck. You just need everything to work out in your favor. Yeah, okay.
Lucky to be good and good to be lucky.
Very true. Yes. So what's the event that you're working on now? I'd love to know.
Now it's summer now in the UAE, so it's a little bit slow. Things start to ramp up actually kind of from now moving forward. So usually I worked on Expo, which was a world fair, which is like probably one of the longest commissions I've ever had, it was 7 months. But usually my usual assignments are either day-long assignments or maximum usually about a week. So now the biggest thing that we're kind of gearing up for in the region is the World Cup, FIFA World Cup, which is coming in, I think it's just about 100 days at the moment. This is what the big preparation is for at the moment. But starting as of next week, there's day commissions that are coming down the pipe where as the weather becomes a little bit less crazy, that's what we're kind of aiming for at the moment.
Very nice, very nice. So how long does the post-processing work after you take the pictures and you reach home, and how long does that post-processing work take for you?
Well, nowadays, it depends on what the client's needs are. Some of the things that we do, I send from the back of the camera, and they can be, images can hit the wire or whatever the client needs within 20 seconds of the image being taken. You can send it from the back of the camera, and this is speed is king. We're trying to compete against Twitter. We're trying to compete against live TV coverage, that kind of thing. General coverage, usually it takes about an hour to sift through a day's worth of pictures and push it out. And then commercial assignments can be days based on what is needed for retouching and what the final needs of the client are.
Mm-hmm, that's nice. So, I mean, since we have all the equipment behind you, I'd love to know what's the equipment that you usually carry along with you? I mean, how much do you always have to carry excess baggage? I would love to know that.
The amount of equipment highly depends on what the job is and what the brief is. It can be anything from when I have travel assignments, it can be 1 or 2 cameras, 1 lens, 2 lenses, and just very light. And then it can be a little bit of this, a little bit of everything, and then there's cases here, there's cases there, there's all little bits of pieces of all kinds of things. So it really depends. Because I'm a freelancer and because I do a little bit of everything, it can be portrait shoots with backdrops and everything, and a lot of like lighting equipment, or it can be sporting equipment with remote cameras behind nets and covering football and that kind of thing. So again, it's a super wide range of things that can be needed based on what is needed from the client and what the particular shoot is. So there's no answer really. Like I tried to carry as little as possible just to save my back and to concentrate on the image more than the equipment. But there are certain things that are required. If you're shooting football, you can't use a small camera. You have to use particular equipment.
So I mean, since you actually work with so many different styles of photography, what do you enjoy doing best? Like, do you like the architectural, or do you like having people in your photos, or sports?
My personal favorite type of photography really, I think, is sport. I got into photography because of sport. I think that it's like a crystallization of human emotion, the highs and the lows and all that. I've been super lucky to be able to shoot sport at the highest level. I've shot like 2 Olympic Games, and quite early in my career as well. So this is quite amazing to see it at such a high level. But really, I just like anything. I like photography and I like travel and all this, but my true passion is people. So anything that allows me to meet people or go somewhere that I wouldn't have otherwise got to go and experience and meet more people is my favorite, really.
So I'd love to know, since when have you been a photographer? I mean, when did you actually start getting into the role of being a photographer? I feel like people always have that talent, but when did you feel like a photographer?
I started college for photojournalism when I was 17. So I've been working now. So I guess I was a student for 3 years, but I would really call myself a photography student. So as of what's the date now? In about a week, that'll be 20 years ago. So yeah, but I've been working, like I got my first freelance assignment, I'd say like 18 years ago or something like that. So, I finished school in 2005. So I've been a professional since 2005 at this point. So a little while.
Okay. And what was your first big paid gig? I mean, how did you feel just cementing that career in photography?
My first paid gig was probably, I think I got a freelance assignment shooting golf, like the Canadian. I'm originally from Canada, so I was shooting like the Canadian Open PGA Tour event. I think would have been probably one of my first assignments. But like the first big assignment was while I was still in college. I shot the 2004 Olympic Games. So this would probably one of my first big assignments.
And you've actually been featured on so many different media outlets, newspapers, things like that. So which feature are you most proud of? What's one thing that you're like, oh, okay, I did this, that's amazing?
I love big pictures. So anything with a lot of ink or a lot of pixels, I like this. For me, the pinnacle is usually like, I love seeing my images anywhere, but New York Times, I think. So this is probably top of the list. New York Times, CNN, Time, like these kind of like big ticket, not just the American ones like Guardian, Der Spiegel, all these kind of things are quite exciting to see your images in like big publications. But I think I'd say New York Times probably is the biggest for me.
So what according to you is actually the thing that makes a good photograph? Like everyone can take pictures, but what makes a really good photograph according to you?
I think anything that evokes emotion, like the human experience, action. Yeah, I think allowing someone to experience something they wouldn't otherwise experience through viewing the image is what I think makes a good picture.
Yeah, I mean, because you were bringing this up, I actually remembered I went through your website and I saw this beautiful picture at the expo. That was my favorite, actually. It's just everything looked so yellow and there are people standing at the gate. I think for the mobility.
Yeah. This was at the closing.
Yeah, and it was so beautiful. I couldn't understand what it was. Was it like a sandstorm or something of the sort?
Yeah. So actually, what this actual picture was Reem Al Hashmi, Her Excellency, which is the highest official of the Expo. And after the closing ceremony at 3 a.m., that following morning, they had the I guess you'd call it a ceremonial closing of the portal or the closing of the gate. And it just happened that it was a sandstorm, or no, not sandstorm, but it was kind of a sandstorm, but also kind of foggy. And it just happened to be this super, what's the movie? I can't remember. But it just looked very cinematic, and it was you couldn't have paid for this scene. It just was very ethereal and otherworldly kind of, and it was a very interesting way. It was an amazing way to just kind of bookend the expo and say goodbye to the event,
Yeah, I mean that picture, I was just like, wow. So I need to ask you, what was your favorite picture that you took from the expo?
My favorite. There were so many. As a team, we shot more than 1 million pictures, and I think the final count of toned images was something in the 70,000 range. If I had to think about it on the spot, my favorite image, I spent New Year's Eve on the top of the pavilion, of the sustainability pavilion, which was the big cone, and I shot the fireworks over Al Wasl Plaza, and I think that was my favorite moment. And it was a really nice picture, but it was I was by myself. I was kind of in a place that usually people don't have access to, and just being able to witness that and experience that moment kind of by myself was in a site full of people that was always so full was probably my favorite moment.
Wow. Yeah, that actually sounds amazing, because the expo is so crowded. There was barely place to stand, and you're all by yourself. That sounds really good. So how did you get into photography? You even went to college for photojournalism. Yeah. How did you get into it? Was it
so photography? I got into photography at the end of the day probably because my father was into photography. He was a reservoir engineer and traveled on the international circuit doing working for Texaco and Shell and that kind of thing. So he would always bring back slides of his travels. And then my godfather, when I was in year 6 school, gave me an old Canon film camera. So I was always taking pictures. But when I really got into photography was the junior high yearbook. So I am the yearbook geek that never grew up. At the end of the day, and really and then I at that time we were shooting film, and I got sent out to shoot whatever sports and clubs were happening in school, and I thought it was the best thing ever that I got free film, and free film done. I thought and once I found out that you could do that as a living and get paid to take pictures and meet people, halas, I was finished. I was done. It was I didn't want to do anything else.
That's so nice. I mean, it's actually, it sounds so good. So what type of photography, you've already mentioned what is your favorite, but what is probably the most challenging to capture?
The most challenging for me, again, because I do a little bit of everything, I think really, to be honest, food photography is it's something so different than what I usually do, or jewelry photography. I don't do a lot of it, but it does come up. This would probably be the most difficult. I think that the people who do it at a high level are just they're beyond. They're amazing. But everything has its own little challenges, and I love a challenge. I love kind of pushing myself to think outside the box. But yeah, I think I would say probably food photography at a high level is the hardest thing.
What is probably an underrated aspect of photography that one wouldn't know if they aren't in the field?
something that the most underrated thing about photography or living a life shooting pictures is just the experiences you get to have, and like the behind they call it BTS, or behind the scenes, but like the moments going to a venue before an event happens, or staying late, and experiencing those moments, or meeting or being around like high level people or important people. I think that this is probably the most underrated thing, or things that people don't think about the most. Getting to meet the staffers that make events happen, whether it be the event company, whether it be the communications people, like the people behind the scenes are often just as interesting, if not more interesting and more hardworking than the people in front of the camera. So I think getting to be around those people and that aspect of how the events of the world kind of take place is quite interesting. Again, to like push it back to like Expo, like seeing the people that like made it happen, not just like the front of house talent, that's the most interesting thing, I think.
That's very nice insight. So what is your ultimate dream? Like, do you have an event or a location or anything in particular that you hope to photograph one day?
There's nothing particular that like is on like my bucket list. It would be nice to, I'm just happy to be getting paid to take pictures and have my like to do my passion full time. I feel really blessed and really lucky to be able to do what I love to do. If I can keep doing that until I'm not able to do that anymore, that would be excellent. Yeah, it's not. I'm not a picky person. I'm really. I just want to make the next best picture.
So, do you have like an inspiration it could be in the field or otherwise, who probably acts as like a very guiding figure in your journey of photography?
There's not one particular person who like I look up to. I look up to many photographers, and I look at a lot of pictures, as does everybody these days. But I follow like a particular set of photographers. The people I went to college with, there's a small group of us that stay in touch, that are still working, and I think this is who I look to for inspiration the most. There's 2 or 3 specific photographers who are just amazing, and we came up together, and it's interesting to see where your peers have kind of have got to 2 decades on at this point, and they really pushed me to kind of do better. And then also my colleagues that I work with every day, not every day, but like most days, there are other like photographers, photojournalists in Dubai, that you are at assignments with, and like there's nothing like seeing good pictures being produced and competing against those people. So competition elevates you. So these are the people that I look to.
So is there something that you would wish that you could tell your younger self who was just getting into photography?
I would tell my younger self to calm down, just like take it in stride, just like kind of push, but be calm and like allow the process to happen. Like I'm sure, as with many young people, wanted it all now, and like just letting it marinate and having it comes with time, and not to rush, and to but I was fairly good with enjoying the moments and stuff like that, but be calm is the biggest thing I would tell my younger self.
I think, yeah, that's an advice we'd give all of our younger selves. It's pretty common. Yeah, so this is actually a question that I had to ask you. They usually say that doctors are the worst patients. Is it the same with photographers? Like, are you as good in front of the camera as you are behind it?
Yeah, so this is definitely a huge problem. I actually had a conversation with one of my friends that I was visiting last week, who's a photographer, and we always just like take fun pictures around, but you can always like, you know exactly what he's doing, like you know how he's like framing it up, and you can kind of catch yourself kind of like playing to it, and like you notice what's kind of happening. So yeah, I'm terrible to have my photo taken, because I'm overthinking it, or like I'm just over observant. So I definitely have to like kind of like be like, no, just act normal, like be calm. And it's not even about acting normal and like you don't stiffen up, but like you are like trying to help the situation by being in the right spot, or, you know, block this red thing, or block this chair with me, or block this, and you kind of notice things in the background. So yeah, totally. This is exactly, yeah. Photographers are hard to shoot pictures of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, so what is your like favorite, if you had to probably record a still, something really, okay, if you have to go for like a sports event, what is the gear that you would carry along with you if you're traveling?
So a general sports event, I usually always have 2 cameras, because 1 is none and 2 is, it's better to have backups. So I usually always have at least 2 cameras. If I'm covering a sporting event that lends itself to setting up remote cameras, it would be more than 2. I have 5 so 3 remote cameras can be like strung up. But 2 cameras, a 24-70 lens, a 70-200 lens, and usually like a 400 millimeter lens is the basic sports kit. But then you start to add just not camera kit. Like you need monopods, you need a computer to like process the images, you need card readers, you need power banks, you need cables, you need little tripods for the remotes, etc., etc. It goes on and on and on. So it's a little bit endless, and you're able to like take it to the level that you want to take it to. But I try to keep it as simple as possible to really kind of focus on the image and not have it focus so much on the gear. Again, what I said before, you need a minimum amount of gear to like kind of get it done. But this is another thing I would tell my younger self is like, don't worry so much about the gear. Like I have the privilege of having some gear, or like a large amount of gear at this point. But it's not so like, use what you have and make the best of what you can while you have it. But yeah, so this is like the minimum amount of gear that you kind of need for certain sports events.
Oh, even the minimum seems like quite a bit.
It makes my shoulders hurt just thinking about it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm just guessing this would be quite a stressful job, especially when, you know, you have such heavy expectations on you when you're covering an event. So how do you manage with that? How do you deal with that?
The stress of working in this job is, it is next level. It depends on the client and the job. Like I do rely heavily on my experience, and that allows me to not have as much stress as I did when I was younger or less experienced. But yeah, you put the expectation on yourself to produce quality images on a regular basis. And when you do miss something, I mean, I never miss any picture ever. But when you do miss something, or when things don't go as planned, you do stress. So you just prepare as best as you can, and plan for the worst and hope for the best, and do what you can in the moment. This is all you can do, really. But it's just plan, and hope for the best.
Okay, I mean, has there ever been a time that you've really not liked a photograph, but the client has loved it? Has that happened?
Of course. There's been so many times when the client is, when the client is happy and you don't think it's the best work. At the end of the day, we always kind of say, like, don't file the picture, or don't send a picture if it's bad. You know what I mean? Like, so if I don't think it's up to par, I won't send it. But with specifically like event clients or commercial clients, usually send a wider edit than you would if you're shooting an editorial job. For an editorial job, you know, you could send like 10 to 30 pictures for a job, whereas for a commercial job, you could send up to 200 images for the same type of job. It just depends on the client. So yeah, even for editorial, even with 10 pictures, you may think one is the best, and the editors may think that the other one is the best. So, you know, I've become quite particular with if it's not the best picture, don't send it. And this is the best thing. But it's such a subjective thing that even at the highest level, for editorial clients, everybody has a different view of what the best picture is.
Very true. Yeah. I mean, there's something about photography that's a little subjective. Like people just choose what they like. But I feel like so much of your amazing pictures, like we all love them, right? So I mean, there's something so uniting about that. But there is a very subjective aspect to photography as well.
The only thing I would add it'd be that we live in an ever visual world, and I think that people are more visually literate now than ever before. So the general population is more visually literate now than they ever have been before. So it's ever more important to have a strong visual presence, like among your brand or among. I guess that's a little bit self-serving, but this is what I always tell my clients is like, people know when it's kind of when visuals are strong, and that can vital to social media campaigns, to any commercial advertising campaign, to editorial layouts, etc., etc. So yeah, I think that there's still a place in the world for still images. It is evolving, and there is a bigger push nowadays for video than there ever was before. But there's still an appetite and a market for still images. I think there will be for a long time to come.
Mm-hmm. That's true. So I mean, I'll just add to that. Do you have any advice for aspiring photographers and photojournalists?
My advice for upcoming photographers would be shoot a lot of pictures, expect to fail, learn from those failures. It doesn't happen in a day. To link back to two different things I said, that the technology these days is greater than it ever has been in the history of cameras. So it's easier for people to be good and even harder for people to be great because the market is flooded with people wanting to do it. So yeah, the cream always rises to the crop. So the cream always rises to the top. So like, if you're good, there will be a space for you in the industry, and just not to give up. Like if it's something that you think that you're meant to do, then push, and it will happen eventually. Okay, have a great day. Let me know if you need anything else.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Christopher. Have a great day.
Cheers.